Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where we answer your questions about, property. And we can't wait to get started. We've got loads of questions lined up, but we want more because we're going to do a whole year of this. So let's get your questions in now. Rob, please direct our wonderful people to where they can get their burning questions answered.
Yeah, could not be easier. Just go to propertyhub.net/ask. There you can leave us a voicemail, or if you want to appear in our Sunday Times column, you can send us a written question there as well. So both at propertyhub.net/ask. But we love people who leave us a voicemail because that means we can answer them there here on this show. Starting with Mike.
Hi, Rob and Rob. This is Mike. Just want to say, really appreciate the content you guys are putting out. I think it's an amazing podcast. Been listening for a few years and it's really helped my property game. I'm at a stage now where I'm looking to buy my fourth property. But before doing so, I wanted to understand something that you guys have talked about before, which is the monopoly strategy. You previously mentioned that at some point start consolidating your properties and buying a more expensive property to minimize costs, etc. I just wanted to understand, when do you think is a good time to do that? Is it basically volume-based? You hit a certain number of properties, then you should consolidate? Is it portfolio value-based? Also, the timing. Obviously, you want to be selling your properties during the boom phase of the cycle, 18-year property cycle. And I'm assuming, obviously, you then want to buy your properties once the market is just about recovering. So, yeah, just keen to get your thoughts on the monopoly strategy and how to execute it. That'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for your question, the monopoly strategy. Get loads of comments and questions about the monopoly strategy. So I'm really happy that we brought to you that as a concept. Now, there are no hard and fast rules around this. There isn't like you get to this point and you immediately change, because it will depend on you, your time constraints, your portfolio, and so on. However, that's not a great answer. So let me give you a rough guide. I felt that everything changed when I got to around 10 properties. It just became a chore, property investment, because you just felt like you were doing a remortgage every 5 minutes. There was always a question to answer. And although I don't directly manage the property myself, it was just brought to my attention, my world. I still have to sign things. So I felt around 10 things changed. Now, it will be different for different people, because if people have more time than me, then maybe their tolerance can go a little bit further. But for me, it felt roughly around 10. And I believe a lot of people who listen to this podcast are time poor as well. They want to benefit from property investment, but they don't want it to be a hassle. And I think that is a good guide. At 10, you should reconsider. But if you're at 8 or 9 and it started to become a hassle, then address it. I think that's really the point of doing it, is when it becomes consistently a bit of a chore. There are going to be moments, right? If you've got one property, sometimes things are going to go wrong. And when you've got 4 properties, yeah, but it's when it's constant. And I feel it's when you hit that double-digit territory that it becomes that constant and it feels like it's a chore. So that is when you should look at your portfolio and go, what's the naughty one in this list? What's the one that is not giving me the return that I expected, or is having more voids than I thought it would, or there's just more problems, more maintenance issues? There's always one in there. I know which one it was in my portfolio. It's going to be easy to identify. And if you don't have that property in your portfolio, then maybe it's too early for the strategy, because you're doing fine. But there normally will be a property that's not worked out as well as you'd hoped. And that's a good lesson about property, right? Don't expect everyone to be a banger. Not everyone is going to be success after success. You are going to get it wrong occasionally. Rob and I talk about property a lot. We're considered industry experts, but I know I've got it wrong in the past, and you will too. So take them out first. They're the ones to get rid of. And my guess is it'll be one of your cheaper properties. That was my experience. So start with those and then move on. Hopefully, Mike, it gives you a bit to work with. Congratulations on your success so far, and start working up towards that 10.
Yes, well done, Mike. And thank you for your question. Let's have our next question now. This one is from Riz.
Hi, Rob and Rob. My name's Riz. Really appreciate your content. Learned a lot from it over the years. Just wanted to ask a quick question. In the process of buying a property or an apartment in Manchester through yourselves, actually, and been reading some information about the Leasehold Reform and government plans in regards to that last week. I was just wondering what's your take on this and how this affects things going forward, obviously in blocks of apartments and stuff. Yeah, just wondering what your opinion was. Thank you very much.
Riz, great question. And a question where the answer is changing all the time because we have been getting mixed messages from government about what exactly is happening with leasehold reform. What we know is that ultimately they want to get rid of it completely. They don't like leasehold. They want to replace it with something called common hold. So with leasehold, basically you don't own the ground beneath your apartment. Someone else does. And with common hold, everyone collectively, the owners of each apartment collectively will own the ground underneath. This is going to take a while. It's been described as a whole of parliament commitment, which basically means it's going to take 5 years, which basically means it's probably going to take longer than that. But most of it for you, Riz, is not going to be particularly relevant to someone in your situation, because a lot of it is around lease extensions and the cost of doing that and the ability to take collective ownership of the management of a property. But in your position, if you just bought a new or relatively new apartment recently, then most of it isn't going to apply, because the main issue that people run into with leasehold is ground rent. And ground rent is kind of annoying at the best of times because it's something that you're paying out and getting nothing back for in return. But in historical cases, you get ground rents which are high, which would double every 10 or 20 years. And that causes issues. That is intended to be sorted out by future legislation. But since 2022, there's already legislation. That means ground rent cannot be charged on new leases. So on the property that you've just bought, you will not be paying ground rent and you never will. So that's not something you have to worry about. Extending your lease is not something that you're going to have to worry about for a very long time because it's going to have a new long lease on it. You will still benefit from other things that are supposedly going to happen, such as more transparency over service charges and basically stopping management companies from profiteering when they're arranging insurance and things like that. But no game changers. So I would say, Riz, keep an eye on the news about all this because it's always good to know what's going on. To help with that, we've got our free newsletter every Friday, Property Pulse. You can sign up for that at propertyhub.net/pulse. But if you continue with your current strategy, it's unlikely that any of it will affect you directly.
So that's us done for another week. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Riz. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast in the Sunday Times on Sunday and back this same time, same place next week answering more of your questions. Until those wonderful events occur, take care, have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.